Hello friends, and welcome to another video from my series Quick Thoughts On, in which I always talk about different stories from the rich Star Trek universe. In this video I'm going to talk about the next video from the classic Star Trek TV show called Metamorphosis. This episode was aired on NBC for the first time 50 years and 1 week ago, and it's a bit different from the other episodes. There are different stories in the original Star Trek show. There are action episodes, there are comedy episodes, there are social commentary episodes. This one is nothing like that. This one is a romantic story. We start in space and are introduced immediately to our female guest star and the love interest to, surprise surprise, not Kirk, but our male guest star. She is Commissioner Hadford, and the reason why are they transporting her from her mission to the Enterprise is that while on her mission, she got a very rare sickness, which can kill her unless she gets professional treatment on board of the Enterprise, but they soon encounter a strange cloud-like object, which attacks them and pulls them down to the nearby planet. While they try to understand why did they crash land when every system is working, they see something they didn't expect. A young man. He claims that his name is Cochrane and that he is stranded there, exactly like they are, and he offers them to go to his home. When Kirk asks him what is that thing out there, he first pretends that it's just an optical illusion, but after some push he confirms that it's actually a creature he calls the Companion. The Companion is the one who pulled them down because Cochrane told him that he will die without some human contact. Cochrane thought that after saying him that stuff, the Companion would release him, but instead of it, he just brought some other humans to him, so that he can get the human contacts he desires so much. After hearing that, Hadford has a small mental breakdown, which is a sign of her worsening condition. She needs help, and she needs it ASAP. So they ask Cochrane to talk to the Companion, maybe he could help her? The talk failed, unfortunately, but it gave our heroes some important information about their relationship. The Companion doesn't behave like a pet owner, but like a lover. Spock meanwhile plays with the engines of their shuttle, but the Companion doesn't like it and zaps him with his electricity, which makes rocks explode. Okay. When McCoy finds him, he has an idea. Everything which consists mainly of electricity can be destroyed by a short circuit. Good, so they have a plan. When they find out that this Cochrane guy is actually Zephram Cochrane from the Alpha Centauri colony, the man who invented the warp drive, and he was assumed to be dead for something like 150 years. He explains them that he was in his 90s when he left Earth, disgusted by all of his fame, prepared to die, when the Companion found him and made him younger, and since that day he hasn't aged. But Kirk manages to persuade him to help them short-circuit the Companion. Cochrane does it only because he wants to leave the planet way too much. He says it himself. Immortality is just a different word for boredom. He does it even when he compares himself to Judas. They start the device, but instead of knocking off the Companion, they knock off Cochrane, because they were linked, and the Companion tries to kill Spock and Kirk. Only Cochrane's interference saves their lives. So now they need to go back to the drawing board. So what do they know? Well, if you can't kill it, talk to it. That's how you see it, right? Why does Kirk only now come up with the idea of trying to communicate? Shouldn't communication be the first thing they attempt? I mean, they are Starfleet officers. Where does this strange shoot first, ask questions later mentality come from? But Kirk orders Spock to modify the Universal Translator. After that, they ask Cochrane to call the Companion. Kirk speaks to him and he replies, and what a twist! He is actually a she. Kirk tries to talk to her, explaining that humans need more than simply to survive, and by removing all obstacles she made their lives boring and lets them slowly die inside. She doesn't understand, and Kirk tells her that she probably can't understand him because she is not human. The companion disappears when suddenly Hedford appears in the door, completely healthy and speaking with the companion's voice. Something confusing happened. So, if I understood it correctly, the companion left the conversation, went to Hedford, who was dying, asked for her permission to join her, and after receiving it, the companion went inside Hedford's body. Hell, why does that turn me on? And now they are both sharing her completely healthy body. That sounds okay if you don't think about it, but I like to think about these things, maybe a bit too much. So this raises a couple of questions. 1. Since when does the companion have this power, and why wasn't it established earlier? 2. Can the companion leave the body? If yes, would Hedford die or keep being perfectly healthy? 3. How exactly did the companion revive Cochrane? Did she use the same trick as on Hedford? 4. Were Cochrane and the companion joined in the same way as the companion and Hedford are now? If yes, how did they split if Cochrane is still alive now? If no, how did she do it? What are exactly her powers? In other words, first there was the companion as an energy cloud, then it found Cochrane dying of old age, she somehow saved his life, he became young and stopped aging, and she became an energy cloud again. Then she went inside the dying Hedford, saved her life, but she can't leave her body and become an energy cloud again? Why? Do her powers sound inconsistent to anybody else, or am I just overthinking it? Anyway, a few minutes ago, when Cochrane heard that the companion loves him, he was disgusted by it and had a pretty bigoted outburst. But now, when the energy cloud is inside a beautiful woman, he suddenly loves her. I mean, that's sad. You know that ugly people are capable of love too, right? And also being loved. The companion apparently lost all of her powers, which means that Kirk can contact Scotty on the ship and tell them where they are. However, when they want to take the couple with them, there is a new story twist. She can't leave the planet anymore, which means that she will die. Why? I don't know. What about some rules about what exactly her powers are or where? So Cochrane decides to stay with her on the planet, where they will live their lives and grow old together, like millions of men and women did for millions of years. The end. Is that a happy ending? I genuinely don't know what to think about it. You know, the Commissioner was on a peace mission to stop an interplanetary war, so what will now happen to the affected planets? Well, Kirk has a strange way how to deal with it. He basically says to hell with them and says that the Federation can find a different woman. Wait, wasn't the whole point of this episode that they have to get off the planet because they need to get her to the Enterprise as quickly as possible so that she can live, and then get her as quickly as possible back to her mission to stop the war? And now suddenly they don't care about the war anymore? But at least it's the end of the episode. Now, to be fair, I have to separate the story of this episode from the way it was shot. While I don't really like the story, meaning the work of the writer, I really, and I mean really, like the work of the director and the cinematographer. This episode looks simply beautiful. The composition of many of the shots is just joy to watch. There are a few examples of, let's call it, visual storytelling. The main example is, of course, a brief scene in which the companion in the body of Hedford tries to learn the usage of her body, and she takes her scarf or whatever that thing is. I'm not an expert on female fashion, so if it's not a scarf, write me down what that thing is. She takes it and she watches through it, and then we see that she's watching Cochrane. And this little moment, by the way, completely made up on spot by the director Ralph Senensky, just tells you more about her character than some 10 minutes of exposition. The colors are beautiful in this one. Every shot looks like a painting, just wonderful. The story is just an average love story, don't get me wrong, I would never say it's bad. It's just not very good in my opinion. I also am one of the people who need explanation of special powers. I also don't like the message which this episode sends, that love is just for pretty people. On my scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is absolute garbage, 10 is a masterpiece, 5 is average, I would give this episode 7 out of 10. The story itself would get 5 out of 10, the directing would get 10 out of 10, which means 15 out of 20, or let's say 7 out of 10. But of course, those were just mine opinions. Feel free to write your opinions down in the comment section. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you have some free time and enjoyed this one, feel free to watch any of my previous videos. You should see some links on screen right now. I have done videos about Star Trek the Animated Series, Star Trek The Next Generation, and Star Trek Discovery. But of course I'm doing different kinds of videos, including my reviews of all of the Eaglemoss models, or comparison videos where I have shown differences between different versions of the episodes of the classic Star Trek TV show. In the next couple of days I will do videos about the next episode of Star Trek The Next Generation called The Battle, and the next episode of Star Trek called Journey to Babel. Until then, thank you very much for watching, and bye.